that students coming into the conservatory can play unbelievably, but frequently lack basic musicianship skills. And so the 4-year envelope then becomes quite a challenge in terms of how do you build in many of those skills that were given before this recent age began.
Yeah, I think that's a large
And I think that
issue.
actually then leads to problems as they take positions in orchestras and other positions, because they're very challenged personally in terms of sometimes just reading. You know, just reading the part.
Yes, I agree.
So when you talk about the 4-year window, so many of these things churn up to me because we have the pressure of teaching students survival skills and entrepreneurial skills and so on and so forth, but also the challenge of teaching them basic skills.
Right. And that's something that I think is going to be the Achilles heel to the artistic level out there if the business is not careful. Is one of the reasons the artistic level is so high is because the sheer level of technician is just out of this world.
Amazing.
Right now. And that's a good thing. But you need these other issues to go along with it to be able to sustain it as well. I think that's going to be a large part. I know, just from my perspective of going through conservatories was just before this big shift happened. And I remember students going through classes that were amazing technicians, but they paid no attention to the other classes. It wasn't that the system was broke or they weren't trying to teach them. Nobody was holding them accountable for not doing well in all those other classes. And that was a real problem. And coincidentally, now having enough history behind me, I've seen a lot of those same technicians are the first people that burn out. And fade away. And the ones that stick with it have more of a holistic artistic education and are good musicians and are the people who have a little tougher skin.
Let me just jump a subject here.
Sure.
So you're hired by, let's say, the American Symphony Orchestra League has something called the Orchestra Leadership Academy, OLA.
OLA, yes.
Yes. And OLA offers seminars for managers, primarily.
Right.
Sometimes for conductors.
Right.
And so you get a phone call from the league, from Henry or Polly or whatever, and they want you to teach a course for orchestra managers.
I'd say yes, I'd love it.
What would that curriculum look like?
It depends. I think OLA is probably one of the best things that the American Symphony Orchestra League does right now.
Agreed.
I think it's one of the most productive and also one of the most self-defining things that they do, because the number of individuals they bring in is what helps shape that program. It's not a top-down design program, and that's what I like about it completely. It would depend on what I would have to be asked to work on. I know OLA tends to focus on individual subjects and topics. I think what I would like to teach the most is going to be labor relations. I think that's the one thing most managers are woefully unprepared for and tend to learn the hard way. As they tend to have lessons taught with 2x4s instead of really having an idea of what they should know before they go in.
It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it, that it
is.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
It is. I mean, I have horror stories to tell of managers that are proud of how little they pay their players or what kind of concessions they can make. And of course, that's the worst end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But they're out there, and that shouldn't exist anywhere. I see managers more often than not, actually, I just wrote something about this, of why there's such a high turnover in this business. Is there are so many good people that do come in working in this business, but they're so unprepared for the demands of what is going to be expected of them, and then the pressure, which usually tends to be the straw that will break the camel's back, which is the feedback they get from the musicians. I've seen managers break down and cry, and there really isn't any need for that whatsoever. There needs to be a better system to teach managers how to work with musicians, and God help me for saying it, it shouldn't be a manager only that teaches managers how to do this. It shouldn't be a
Right.
consultant that's not a musician that teaches managers how to do this. It shouldn't be a foundation that's going to spend a lot of money to who would otherwise be wonderful consultants to come in and do these things, but they have no idea what it is to be a musician, and they have no idea what it is to exist inside a collective bargaining agreement,
Right.
and to be a collectively bargained individual. They have to have someone like that. The last guy I knew that was doing that until he retired was Fred Zanone.
That's right.
And Fred did a wonderful job at it. But, you know, there's no one else out there right now doing that the way Fred did.
Fred's on the board of our polyphonic.org.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Fred
But you know,
is
just,
a
it's
sharp
interesting.
guy.
My brother was on the board of the Philadelphia Orchestra, actually vice chair, around the time just after the strike.
96?
Yeah,
Okay.
when they formed the Millennium Committee, and
Yes.
and he's now retired, but a prominent attorney in Philadelphia, and I'm sure asked onto the board because of his position in that community. And he, after one meeting with musicians, called me up and said, "I feel like I landed on the moon." And here's somebody who'd been around for a long time, but he had never experienced interacting with artists who feel.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different world. So in defense, in a certain funny way here, of the managerial profession, you know, those who do not come out of the music world are really challenged because they haven't experienced that in a daily way.
You're right. And even in even a small dose way, they haven't dealt with it. And a good manager, a good executive manager, should be an individual who can be a bridge and a conduit between those two.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be someone to add to the problem. They should be someone who helps both sides understand that issue. And I don't see that enough. And I think a class at OLA that should be designed for that I would love to teach, you can call me, is not just for managers, but actually for board members as well, too. Because there's such a wide variety of personalities in board leadership, just as much as there is in musicians. I think that's got to be one of the things that's addressed first and foremost right now.
Yeah, okay.
And I think some of the best people to deal with that are not just the musicians, but some of the people who have worked for musicians for a very long time as their representatives in one form or another, because you can learn a lot from those individuals as you can from the musicians themselves.
Thanks.
Sure, thank you very much.